always been mad keen on flying as a child, and used to hop on my bike and go out to the local airfield and walk around there. And actually I was present at the first air pageant, as they were called then, at Launceston Airport, which is the first time Tasmania had ever had a traffic jam. Everybody in Launceston trying to go there, I think. Very haphazard procedure. We were all gathered together in a hangar, different aircraft musterings, and you sort of looked around, and you'd been summing people up beforehand a bit, and I selected a navigator and a radio operator, wireless operators they were called then, and a bomb aimer. They were all Australians. And the navigator was actually a friend of my brother's, who was also a navigator. And bomberman knew 2 Australian young people from Newcastle, so they became the 2 gunners. That was it. Yes, the 23rd operation was a daylight. Mostly earlier they'd been by night, but some about daylight. And this was to a city called Dortmund, which is in the Ruhr Valley. And all went well till we were just about over the target when the aircraft was hit by anti-aircraft fire, flak, which fortunately didn't damage the aircraft much. The engines kept going, but all the perspex in the cockpit was blown out, and some of the instruments, petrol tanks hole and so on. And having the perspex blown out was a good thing in one way, because I was wounded in the hand and knee and the shoulder, and had a fractured skull, and the fresh air coming into the cockpit sort of kept me awake. And so that was the question. We dropped our bombs and headed for home via a couple of emergency airfields which we could land on if necessary. But the flight engineer sort of patched me up with bandages and things, and managed to fly it back to first one emergency airfield, which decided we could go further than another, and back to our base in Lincolnshire, and from there to hospital. Oh, very damaged, and a lot of buildings were just shells, and of course nothing was done in the way of repair at that time. Sometimes the remains were pulled down. There were a lot of emergency water tanks, which were big concrete tanks full of water. Hyde Park had a lot of anti-aircraft guns in it. All the parks had trenches and things, trenches. So yes, it was in a way grim, but in other ways not. Saw them, heard them. They were all right when they were buzzing along overhead. It's when the motor cut that you wondered. The motor would cut, you see, and then just go down, and you didn't know just where it was going. But the V2s, which were rockets, they were, of course, supersonic, and they'd go up very high, and then you wouldn't hear them coming. You'd hear the explosion, then you'd hear the rumble of their flight afterwards, because the sound being delayed. A couple of occasions saw V2s being launched in Europe back towards London. Not the actual rocket itself, but you see the trail going up more or less vertically from the ground and sort of zigzagging as it was set on its course and then head off. Well, we were in Lincoln, or we were stationed outside Lincoln, moved into Lincoln, and celebrated there with outside Lincoln Cathedral, which is a magnificent building, you can see it from miles, and fireworks. That was unofficial fireworks. They were fireworks which the Air Force used for signals, and searchlights were turned on, and they found all sorts of bunting and little Union Jacks and things, of which I souvenired one and took it back to England 6 years ago and gave it to an aviation museum there. So yes, we're feeling euphoria, obviously.